few of us have been there from 2015 when we incorporated. We set up a trust. So there was a journey, and we are here in the last 4 years at this point in whatever we achieved. The purpose of this meeting is, this is the first formal meeting. We had workshops earlier, we had a public relations workshop, we had a leaders workshop, we have several workshops. But this is like a first formal meeting of Indic Academy's volunteers and conveners and office bearers, so to speak. So this is like, there's no precedent for this. So a lot of you have asked me what's the agenda, whatever. So I don't know. Let it be a free-flowing agenda. I've just given some framework of what we are going to discuss from now to tomorrow, 4 o'clock, 9 to 4, tomorrow 4 o'clock. And the idea is that it should be oriented towards actionable points for all of us to plan. So this is like a, hopefully it will become an annual exercise for planning our activities for the year ahead. And Indic Academy has been incorporated, I'm a chartered accountant, but it had nothing to do with it. It was incorporated on 2nd April, so as if at the beginning of the financial year. And we are here on the 6th of April. So it would be probably a nice thing that we can think of, that this is an annual feature for all of us to meet and deliberate and plan for the year ahead. So there is something very tangible and actionable things that we can all plan for. It's just to give a brief background. It started with this thing that we should cultivate, we should nurture 1,000 scholars and 1,000 public intellectuals. So it was a mission 2020 by 2020. That was the, if you've seen the, I keep coming out with all these things. So if you go back in the history of Conveners, that was a very popular thing that I was talking about, mission 2020 by 2020. So we have 1,010 intellectuals and 1,010 scholars, and that's what we need to do. And that was an action-oriented task that we set ourselves to. And then it started with the thing of, from 4th August, we started building a community of book lovers and book readers. So we started sending books to various people. And that's how this community has been built. And we will talk about how the community has now become into a different platform. So what you see here, and what I'll walk you through, I didn't have a clue that it would turn out to be like this. It was just a passion that yes, we must do something. And there was a tangible thing of transforming public intellectuals and transforming scholars. That was it. And from there, this is happening. So it was not like some visionary thinking that, someday under the tree or a beach, thinking and all this happened. No. This happened because there was a constant adapting, testing, going to the market, so to speak, trying out new ideas, continuously experimenting new ideas, taking feedback, accepting failures, recognizing failures, and then innovating, and then building a framework on top of it. That's how this has happened. So oftentimes people ask me saying that, oh, you're changing, you said this, or you said that. And then answer is yes. But the point is not whether I have changed. The point is whether this makes sense or not. That's the point. We can all change. Change is okay. And we can think that we want to do something, but we turn out into something else. But the point, the question that we always have to ask is, does this make sense to what we're trying to do? And if the answer to this is yes, then this tinkering, changing, evolving, adapting, all that is okay. That's what I feel. And that's exactly what has happened. So there have been some changes in the branding and in the taglines, several things. But the ground thing that was that we have to professionally, using corporate ideas, change the narrative. That is the broader vision of how do we bring about a renaissance, trying to think like an entrepreneur. So if somebody were to say, okay, what exactly was this thing? There's an entrepreneurial thought of taking risks, of thinking big, of trying to be structure and process oriented. And that's why if you see a lot of my mails, all the mails that you see, there's a lot of orientation towards that kind of a reporting, feedback, asking for, those kind of things. Because this is just a not-for-profit, right? So you can say that we don't need to do these things. But on the other hand, if you do these things, then there's always a connect of trust that is developing between people, saying that yes, if you know that, if I have to take a decision, I know that there is a standard, there will be some kind of a standard in my responses. So that is how this has grown and this is how that journey has been. So I'll just walk you through this so that this gives you a framework, and later on we'll all have presentations by individuals and we'll share our experiences. And we'll ideate and we'll come back with actionable points, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe for a year, as to how do we progress and how do we change the narrative. So the first and foremost, this definition as to who are we and what's our vision. To summarize and synthesize it into saying that we are a non-traditional university, in quotes, for traditional knowledge. So it's a very succinct statement that we are trying to promote the traditional knowledge. But we're trying to do so in an unconventional way. We are not a regular university and we are not boxed into one regular university. No, we cannot be boxed in. So we are an unconventional university, a non-traditional university, an un-university as Yogi would say. So we are an unconventional university or traditional wisdom. That's a very distinct, succinct way of putting it. And I want to know whether you all agree with me broadly or not in this definition or not. Nandan?
I do agree. I just am in complete agreement with you. Perfectly concurring with the thoughts that you are putting forward. Because there was a need of this unconventional way of bringing forward the traditional knowledge that we have that is there but cannot be seen. So that has to be fathomed out and put in front so that everybody knows what we had and what can be achieved. And this is one of the best ways that we can see.
Thank you. So then what is our vision? And the vision is a global renaissance. A renaissance which is intellectual, cultural and spiritual. You've seen that I've been constantly talking about the fact that we have to look at it across dimensions. And the reason I believe that is that, just to give you an example, Chinmudra, yesterday Dakshinamurti's Chinmudra, right? He's teaching Vedanta in this Chinmudra. That's what he's teaching in silence, right? And a mudra is in Bharatanatyam, right? And a mudra is in Ayurveda and healing. Right? So if you see a simple concept called mudra, it runs through a cultural, an intellectual and spiritual aspects. And this can be seen in every aspect of our thought, that our thought permeates into different aspects of it. So when we have talked about a renaissance, we cannot think of renaissance unless we include cultural aspects, unless we include the spiritual aspects as a living thing. There won't be a renaissance. It's just not a dry thing that yes, the Vedas were fantastic or our thought was fantastic, and there won't be a renaissance there. Renaissance will only happen if all the three are integrated and all the three are related. And that's why the renaissance has to be integrated, and like I keep talking, this is our time, and we have to talk about a global renaissance. Because there is a response and because there is a need, yes, we are destined to be Vishwaguru and all that, but today there is a momentum for people consuming our culture. Certainly not, a lot of people don't identify with it, but there is a need for that. So that's why, that's the vision, to bring about a global renaissance. Now the question is, how do we do this? I look at it at two levels, at the individual level and at the collective level. So you have two angles to this. There's an individual that needs to be transformed, and there's a collective that needs to be transformed. So think about it in two ways. So we're trying to bring about a global renaissance of Indic thought at the individual level and the collective level. Which brings me to the question, what is Indic thought? And who is an Indic? And this has again taken some time to chisel this definition. And that is something for you to think about, and if you agree with that definition, to feel for it. A lot of people say, oh, okay, what is Indic Academy, or who is an Indic? What is Indic thought? So how do we put it together in a summary, in a way that people understand it very, very clearly? So this is one framework as to who is an Indic. So an Indic is one who celebrates. So there's a need to celebrate. It's not an intellectual thing that, okay, there's a celebration. There's an emotion that is required. That's what we need to live our culture. There's a celebration of what? Of the continuity. This is not 1947. India was not born in 1947. The continuity, the civilization continuity, the identity, and the heritage perspective. That's what we are celebrating. If you don't celebrate, then it's not, you're not an Indic. It's just an intellectual exercise that we are doing. The other thing is somebody who transcends, the world is being divisive. Why is it being divisive? Between left and right, between liberal and conservative. Everything is a divisive construct. Right? And this divisive construct permeates. So an Indic transcends this. That is our knowledge. Our knowledge transcended the concept. There was no concept of science and humanities. There was no concept of East or West. Right? There was no concept of tradition and modernity. I am traditional and modern at the same time. So there's no need to say that, oh, this is traditional and this is modern. There's no such construct. It's a continuum. So somebody who is able to transcend these dualities can be said to be an Indic. And then what exactly is this Indic thought in comparison to the global thought forms that are out there? Is that there are four things. One, it's non-dogmatic. It's non-exclusivist. It's non-predatory. I don't go out and convert, and it's non-violent. And all these qualities are very important qualities, especially when you're trying to compare it with other ideologies, other thoughts. Our thought doesn't have these four things. It's also adaptive and self-reforming. It's like an enigma or whatever. So it takes in people, takes in thoughts, takes in ideas, and the constant adaptations. Sure enough, our thought and our practices, there could be issues, discrimination, right? Think about it. And that is what we are trying to preserve, protect, and promote. Which brings back to strategy. Fine, you are a non-traditional university for traditional knowledge, seeking to build a global Indic renaissance. You are an Indic, there's an Indic thought. Great. Then what? What's your strategy? Right? And the strategy here is that again, like I was mentioning, it's integrated. It's an integrated strategy. It cannot be just one silo of one aspect. It's integrated. And we are trying to do all the three. Preserve, protect, and promote. You have some very great scholars who have devoted their entire life. People like Rajiv Malhotra, for example. He's protecting us. Right? There is a continuous barrage of attacks on us, and he's understood and he's protecting us. That's a protection. Right? Preservation. What Om Charitable Trust is doing in the documentary that we saw, that's preservation. The Gurukulam that we saw, that's preservation. They are not concerned about the external world, but they are preserving the traditional knowledge. So you have preservation is important, protection is important, and promotion is important. And to whom do you promote? Promote to our own children, whom we are going to lose if we don't do it, who will become the social justice warriors or millennials or whatever thinking that will happen, and promote it globally, who are already consuming a culture. So that is what we are trying to do, promoting it to. This is so. The question is, who is my customer? You have to think about who is my customer, right? So the customer here, in just to give you a framework, is the global millennials who are already consuming culture, but they're not acknowledging that it is from us. And the Indian millennials. I don't need to promote it to you, I don't need to promote it to you. We're all following it. This is my customer. So this thinking that who is my customer is a very important thing that we need to understand before we do anything. What exactly is it? Then the other thing is, there is a simultaneous thinking in three horizons. I'm thinking near term, medium term, and long term. So once you start thinking simultaneously in a three horizon framework, there is an attack on us today in school or whatever thing is, and there is an attack on Shefali or so. These are all an immediacy that is there. There's a near-term narrative that has to be thought of. But then they are very smart, right? So they'll think about the next thing and the next thing. So you have to think about in a three-horizon framework, doing all these three things. Because the sheer innovation that they are capable of is brilliant. I mean, just in terms of about how they bring about new caste definitions to the gods, or we are not treating or challenge people properly. There's, if you just scan through any of these magazines, you will see a pattern on how they continuously come up with new ways of which they will attack us. The fact that we are a fresh civilization, there's so many things. But I'm just saying that you have to think in different horizons. The other thing is, in terms of disciplines, this thinking of disciplinary thinking, right? That there's an Indic knowledge systems, and there's a discipline for writing, there's a discipline called soft power, there's a discipline called spirituality. Now I'm talking to Gopi, and I'm already thinking of a center for gender studies, transgender and sexuality and all that, because he will talk about it, and they're completely at us on that. So, discrimination. So we have to think in terms of the domain expertise and think in terms of the centers, this discipline. And then the functions of any university. You go to any university, you have academics, you have research, you have events. But in our university, we have platforms, which is what I'll talk about. So this is the strategy. We are integrated strategy across intellectual, cultural, spiritual. We seek to preserve, protect, and promote to global millennials and Indian millennials. We think in terms of a three-horizon framework across disciplines and across functions. This is a strategy. Now let's look at the individual level, what needs to be done and how an individual can get transformed. First and foremost, if you go back to our concept of Swadharma, think about it and think that any person is broadly can be classified into either he is a thinker or he is very good in organizing or he is very good in communication. This is a broad way of just to give a perspective of the core strengths of a person, core strengths of an individual. And you map, yes, there will be people who are good in all the three. There will be people who are good in only one. Right? There will be good people who will be good in two. Right? If you are good in all the three, then there's a leadership of a different kind. But if you're good in two, then there's a different kind. If you're good in one, it's a different kind. There's no problem. For example, a Conrad Elster, right? He's not an organizer. He's not a communicator. He's a thinker. He's a fantastic thinker. A Shrikant Talagari, right? They're phenomenal thinkers of the highest. You don't need to expect them to organize something for you and organize a conference for you. They're not organizers. They're not communicators. But look at, for example, Shefali. Shefali is a phenomenal communicator. I mean, the kind of fan base that she has built. Yesterday she tweeted, and there's so many people who are in Bangalore, maybe come and meet you, you want to spend time with you, you want to learn from you. This is what happens when you're a brand, when you're a communicator. Right? So if you think of every person in these three categories, and you can see that every person has got, you can slot. For example, I am not so good in one department. The other department, yes, organizing and communication. Then every person has got certain passion. We all see Nitin is passionate, apart from his latest book, shopping. He's passionate about other things. But he's passionate about Vedanta. Right? That's his passion. And Srinivas Ruboni is passionate about history. About the Vedic history. And so each of us had a certain passion. Right? We have a friend, Suren, who is passionate about Vedanta and also passionate about FCRA. So, but if you see broadly, I call it, because of my little bit of Vedantic, this thing as Paravidya and Aparavidya, or it's objective sciences and subjective sciences. I have not put method sciences aside. But broadly, Indic knowledge systems can be classified into two categories of knowledge systems. One is external things, which includes architecture, all the things, external things, and subjective, which includes your yoga, Vedanta, looking within. Right? So just think about it. So each of us within the Indic knowledge systems are passionate about one of these things. In this, there are any number of categories of knowledge systems that is embedded there. Then, there are four things that you can become. Either you can become a serious academic, or you can become an author, or you can be an artist, or you can become an artist. Right? So when you are conveners and your Pramod Kumar is organizing this, he is an activist. So if you look at him, his core strength is organizing. That manifests itself, he revels in it, right? And he's an activist. So if somebody knows Pramod in Coimbatore, this is how he will slot him. Right? Hi. So if you just think about it, this is how it is. Then, when I say selfless and self, the selfless part is ultimately we are here to discuss about how we are protecting and preserving and promoting our dharma. Right? This is not a vocational, this is not a vocation, this is not our personal lawyer, chartered accountancy kind of thing. We are talking about the narrative. So therefore, already you are thinking it's a selfless activity. So therefore, it's a larger goal that we want to protect our thermal. Now within this is where the insight that we have to think about the customer. The customer is the king. And what does the customer want? So every part of your system, all the insights that you have, can be classified either as a product, or a service, or as an experience. Right? If you think of these are the three things, because our knowledge system also gives these beautiful experiences. This morning we had this experience, the customer experience. Right? So anything about our knowledge system is between these three. But then the next question is, what are the qualities or what are the attributes of that customer service that we need to think of? Because already our Indic thought is already being consumed globally. They have just come and picked up a few things here and there, and they're consuming. Right? So, what is it that we are doing? What we are trying to do is that any product, service or experience has to be authentic. That's the only way we can reclaim our wisdom and say that this is us. So authenticity is very, very important. The second thing is, again, this whole thing of, even Carnatic music, they say there's no need for bhakti. If you listen to P.M. Krishna, there's no need for bhakti. Right? So yoga, they have removed bhakti. Everything they're removing the bhakti element. So without our thing is, bhakti is the core of Indic knowledge system. Bhakti is the core. Self-transformation, inner transformation is the core. So if you remove bhakti from it and take the top, there's nothing left there. You will have some physical benefits, you will have some psychological benefits, good, mindfulness and all that, but there's no transformation. So if you want, and if you're thinking of your knowledge systems as a product, service or experience, those product, service or experience has to have these three qualities, which is authentic, immersive and transformative. It has to transform you. This is what we need to think of whenever we're thinking of changing this narrative. And lastly, again, the spirituality aspects of it. Spiritual but not religious. Right? They're spiritual, therefore religious. That's how I define myself. You cannot be spiritual. I challenge anybody. Anybody, I'm ready for a debate. Define spirituality and tell me how you can be spiritual without being devotional. There's no such thing. It's a contradiction in terms. Meditation on a candle or meditation on a mantra is without understanding the devotion is not. It's just one aspect, the physical aspect. So it has to have devotion, the discipline, and the knowledge. And therefore, the inner transformation of the self with the capital, these three elements have to be there. So when we talk about the individual level, I have interacted with more than 200 people in the last 5 years intimately. And this is what I take off when I meet, when I interact with Vikas. I know if I just tell him something, it'll be done. This it'll be done. Muthu, for example. I mean, there's so many people, Dimple, so many people. If I just say that, okay, please do it, do it. Right? So therefore, my thinking, when I think and interact with people, is I just try to understand where they fit in, what is their interest, and then nurture that. And that is how the individual transformation will happen. At the collective level, when we're trying to say that we're trying to build an ecosystem, right? I'm not been using that that we're trying to build an ecosystem because it sounds very grand. But at some point it is good to say it. If you remember our journey of conversations, sometimes because there are people who have attacked all these ecosystem builders. You know, I'm a sensitive person, so there are people on Twitter who will abuse me, saying, oh, these ecosystem builders, some kind of things. That is for somebody else. Like Prasanna doesn't publish something in time, so I am accused because I am invested in Swaraj and I am an ecosystem builder. So this happens. So for a long time, I stopped using the word ecosystem and nurturing an ecosystem. But I said, no, I think we need to realize that there is a science, there is a methodology, there is a structure to building an ecosystem. And that structure is broadly what I say: connect, cooperate, and collaborate. Where first step is you just connect with each other, then somebody asks you help and you cooperate with him, and then finally you come together. You come together and work and create a new body of work. And that's how an ecosystem qualities should be of connect, cooperate, and collaborate. And that, and Indic Academy, we are trying to do it through fostering collaborations in a very systematic way, and I will tell you how. Creating networks consciously and giving grants. So when this grant, that is supposed to be a water can. Okay, so I'm not so good in drawing, but that's so when you're giving grants, so when people come and ask for a grant, that's what you're doing. Because there's an independent effort that's happening, and they're supporting that effort, and that effort will blossom. Right? So look at it. Networks and collaborations. What kind of collaborations? Think about the collaborations that we have. We have research institutions, we have developed a collaboration with KSRI, Kupswami Research Institute, we have collaboration. DP Santanam, DVS uncle. We set up a chair. So it's a formal collaboration. When I say a collaboration, there's a formal engagement. It's not a one-time grant. There's an understanding that we will work together repeatedly and on for a common purpose. It's like we have a collaboration with MIT. And I asked him, so we are doing so many things, and I asked him how many things have we done. So he listed out 5 things that we have done. We have done the Indic Leadership Conference, Indic Sociology Conference, Sanskrit Research Methodology Conference, giving grants to the children. So there's a deeper engagement at the institutional level that transcends me and him, and that remains in the institutional memory between our university and Indic Academy, saying that there's a collaboration. And we wrote letters to 16 Sanskrit universities. There are 16 Sanskrit universities, we wrote a letter to all of them. Saying that we want to collaborate with you, and we started with saying that, okay, we'll give you grants. Now, we have a relationship with 11 universities. And this has happened in the last 6 months where I started. And likewise, NGOs. For example, Heritage, you will hear Vijayalakshmi talk about Om Charitable Trust. It's like a deeper engagement. We have been giving grant them for 3 years. Then we spoke to Java, who gave a bigger grant. And there's a deeper engagement now. Then we made this documentary. And that's how. So when we think about relationships, and how do we formally engage with them, how do we crystallize a long-term engagement with them through collaborations. And that is what is happening here, consciously. We have a collaboration with India Foundation for Center for Soft Power. We have collaboration with Direct Investment Endowment. We have a collaboration with Mahabharata, Vedavyasa Studies, Mahabharata. So this is the formal engagement. And the networks is what we're trying to do, the domain-specific networks. The activist network, which is raising money, a bunch of people who are interested in leveraging Indic Academy's contribution and raising money. Scholar network, Mimamsa network. How specialists can get getting into Mimamsa network? Now, Ganesh Chandra is talking about a yoga network. Author network we have, artist network. So this is how, if you think of how these domain-specific people can connect with each other. And within that, what's the framework for collaboration? The collaboration can be for infrastructure, for reach, again collaboration with Swarajya, for example. So some articles, we reach out and say, please, can you push this? Because they have a very big reach now, they're almost a mainstream media. So that reach is the collaboration. Then technical expertise, for example, we have with MIT, they bring in some technical, and then we support. Then finance is, of course, my phone banking friend, 3 years. And here is where the city network that we have created. That we have in Patna, we have in Baroda, we have in Tirupur, we have now in Indore, Videshi. I mean, just think about it. So we have now all over the world, say we have 30 places, 20 places in India and 10 places outside India. Right? Think about it. Can we think about creating 100 city network in this year? What does it take? How do we select people? Right? In Maharashtra itself, I was talking to Shafali about her book launches because it's in Marathi. So the usual suspects we have a chapter in Nagpur and Pune and Mumbai. Right? But what? There are something like 8 or 10 more cities in Maharashtra that are waiting to be tapped. And this is a good opportunity. You have a good Marathi book, this is a good opportunity to expand your network and create a 10-city Maharashtra network. And we were talking about in UP how we expand the network. So in a year's time, look at how we can expand to a 100-city kind of thing. And just imagine the kind of effort that requires in terms of questions and doubts and issues, processes that have to be in place. Just think about that aspect of how we scale, because that's one of the things that we need to discuss. Saying that we are 20 today, can we become 100? And what does it take to become 100? Right? Because there is value that we are doing. Because of the network that we have created, we have a situation where Nitin has been able to have a book launch in Patna with 5 very, very important people on the stage with him. It would have not happened if this network was not nurtured. Just imagine. And this is an important thing. This network creation, global network creation is an important element in the revival. And so what are the qualities of that coordinator? What should that coordinator be? He's an organizer, obviously. He's reaching out. What are the things that he should think of? How he has to network with the local colleges, how he has to network with the local people, all these things. And what are his decision points? Right? Everything cannot be, Hariji, no. When Pramod said, can I spend? I said, don't come back to me. Up to 20,000, just take a decision. So he was shocked. I said, look, otherwise you can't scale. If we are not process driven and accountable, then we can't scale. So if I have to take an on-the-spot decision, I have to be able to take it. And I have to have some parameters and say that, okay, my budget is this, up to 10% additionally, I have the freedom to take. Another 10 to 20% I have to consult somebody else. If it's more than 20,000, I'll consult the office. I mean, just think about it that way. Then what happens if you have a process driven like that? Then decision making is simple. Because people are empowered. Right? And this is something we have given 263 grants in the last 4 years. 263 grants. And if you see how these grants are evolved, this is a framework. So it's not started as saying that, okay, these are the kind of grants. No. This is how it looks like when you look at all these data and look at all these people that we have supported. This is what it looks like. Right? We have given grants for events, grants for promoting events, we have given grants for scholarship, registration. You want to attend something, you have to pay the registration fees, for travel, for research, for general purposes, for project. For example, Vedavapi, we have given a grant for a project. We have given a grant for Rashid James movie. It's a project, it's a special project. Likewise, we have given for another special film for Pune Koti. It's a project. So when you react to a request for a grant, you have to have a framework. Saying, okay, this is how it is happening. So and that enables that individual efforts. For nurturing this ecosystem. and grants is how we're building this. Like Ritambara, we have a collaboration. We've given a couple of grants, but now we are engaging deeper that with Raghu, we are offering a course for Indica Yoga. We are going to offer a course, a yogi coach course we will offer. So this is how we have to think of when we are thinking of nurturing an ecosystem, building an ecosystem. Now, let's look at how the centers or the domains have emerged. You know? First and foremost, this is the IKS domain, the Inter Gurukula University. Again, just stuck. Makaran Pranjay was appointed as the Institute of Administrative Services. Advanced Studies, sorry. And then what is this IAS? And then Google and then go to website and see. There's something called Inter-University. Wow, nice sounding name. Inter-University. Then if you Google further, then it's under a UGC section 28 or something of the UGC Act. There's a concept called an Inter-University Center. Wow, it's not there in the West. There are a couple in the Europe. But then that thought, triggered from his appointment and understanding of IAS, is that there is value in it. Because if you want to achieve scale, right? So, there was once an idea to set up a liberal arts college in Hyderabad. And thanks to Modi government, I didn't set up. Okay, because the IR separation and all that, but I'm just saying Modi government because most of you know my theories of how BJP did this. But anyway, that's separate. But this, supposing this happened, supposing we set up a liberal arts college, right? There's transformation, but that's limited. That's limited. Because, why is it limited? Because there's one campus, then there's some 200 crore investment, always raising money and all that. In 15 years' time, there'll be 2,000 children coming out. Right? And within this, there's all these issues of faculty, being kidnapped and leftists taking over, like Ashoka University has done. All kinds of things, risks are there. But on the other hand, if you're a hub, an inter-university hub, right? And that hub can reach out to all the universities and make the difference. So that is what this is now. And then, when I met Dattaraj at Om Charitable Trust, and then he told me about the kind of work he's doing of mapping all the Gurukulas, and we'll talk about it. Why don't we think of a situation where there is a comprehensive Gurukula, India's first ground-up, post-independent, you can give all these titles. Comprehensive, it has all the branches. Because yesterday's Gurukula, for example, had only 4 branches, right? It had Mimamsa, it had Vedanta, it had Vyakarna, right? This is the 4 branches that but supposing you have a Gurukula for Dharma Shastras, you have Gurukula for what is it? Dhanurveda, right? Dhanurveda. So you just think about it. There are gaps in the Gurukul market out there. There are gaps. So this would be a comprehensive Gurukulam that will have all the branches. It will be an ideal Gurukulam constructed as per the ideal things, and you just think about it. But there's a vision out there that can actually translate. Now, in the same premises, supposing I also have the Indic Knowledge Systems Research Center, right? Then what happens? There's a bridge between these two in the same compound is there. But this Indic Knowledge Systems Training Center can train teachers from Perth University or Adelaide University they want to set up. For example, I'm telling you, there are a lot of universities worldwide who want to introduce one module on, say, Indic psychology. They don't have teachers. Indic ecology, right? We see Ishvara everywhere. That's how this thing, and then there's a whole host of how we are centered around ecology and sustainability and craft. There's a lot of thought, some courses have been designed. But think about it, if you want to offer it in a normal college anywhere in the world, there are no teachers. Which is what Sai is going to talk about on the education of IKS, what he's trying to do. Conceptualizing courses on psychology, on well-being, and all that. Right? So therefore, this center is going to design courses and is going to offer teacher training programs. And will be doing research and publications and events. And the curriculum, you all know about the success we had about Canal University. Right? How about scaling up Canal University? So I met Mukul Kanitkar of Bharati Shikshan Mandal, and they are going about it in a very, very vigorous way of mapping all the curriculums across India, Nepal, Bhutan, and then trying to revive that system. And they're bringing out a directory which will come out shortly. So I told him simply, saying that let it be a vision that no Indic student, Shastra student or scholar should ever suffer for paying fees or sustenance. Somebody will simply have that vision. What does it take? Just think about it. You want to transform it, you want to just have that small little vision. Right? There are 300 curriculums out there, maybe some 10,000 students, of which maybe 500 students require help. There are, say, another 500 or 300 scholars at my 1,000 scholars require help. What does it mean? What does it take? But the transformation and that change can happen. If you just give that simple goal, right? And then we are reviving. Did you know that in Varanasi, in the last 70 years, there has not been a Shastra Sabha held? That's how, the oldest city in the world, more than 5,000 years. A formal, there have been mini sabhas, but a formal sabha has not been held. Now we are trying to do one in July 11th, 16, 17, 18. More than 70 scholars will come from all over. This is an important thing, reviving that tradition. Then of course, Indic writers, what Dimple is doing, which is identify, encourage, train, mentor, publish, promote, felicitate, support. In each of these words, there is an action that has happened, and we will come to that more. But broadly, courses we've been doing, giving masterclass, own lit fest, not yet happened, but we are curating panels for other lit fest. But most importantly, this is something which we want to do, which is to have a retreat of all writers, 20-30 writers, a 2-day retreat. What are the next themes that are to be written? We had a success called Urban Excellence that had happened because of, it's a fortuitous thing. It just happened. But if you want to have a vision of, say, the next 5 years, what are the themes that need to be written about? Setting the agenda. Urban excellence, for the first time in the history of our battle, set the agenda. That is what has happened because of that book. We set the narrative. We were not countering, reviewing, repeating. We were not doing all that. We went on the front foot and smashed the model, scale. That's what happened. Now, do we leave it for chance and these kind of things, or do we think about it in a very structured, systematic way? Okay, this is how we should set the agenda. And that's what we want to do. Then the soft power, the 1 billion index that I keep talking about. Laugh at my 1 billion index, how will it happen? Right? That's the thing, 1 billion index. It will happen. It will happen with small adjustments and small effort. Because there are 1 million people who are already consuming our culture. Right? Whether you're talking about meditation or mindfulness or yoga or craft or whatever, there are already 1 billion out of the population of 7 billion. Maybe 6, 7 million, 7 million would be consuming your culture. It's just that they don't acknowledge it. So all it requires is a little bit of effort, make them recognize that connection with us. And it will happen. This is a very important initiative we just set up. It's called Network of Indian Cultural Enterprises. NICE. This is hopefully will be a game changer because this is like a trade body. It's a trade body of all cultural enterprises. It's a trade body of all cultural enterprises around the world who are members. And they will be discussing issues relating to their particular vertical, whether it's cuisine, Ayurveda. You know something? 1 in 7 millennial women in US is turning vegan or vegetarian. And if we, as a nation, which proudly has 29 states into 1,000 varieties of vegetarian food, if we don't grab this opportunity, then we are really silly. I mean, this is happening right now. It's not like yoga happened and they appropriated yoga and I didn't know about it. Now I'm trying to reclaim it. That's one story from the past. But vegetarianism is happening in front of our eyes today. Ayurveda and vegetarian cooking is a big thing. What are we doing to set that narrative? Is the question that we ask ourselves. And lastly, then again, spirituality. The center for spirituality is to train gurus. So what with Vinay Chandra we are trying to do now is there are several courses of 200 and 500 hours. Right? Everybody does 200 and 500 hours. All they teach you is asana and pranayama. That's what they teach you. Right? But now we need to offer authentic courses, which are complete courses, which have the Sanskritam, which have the sutras, which has an element of Ayurveda, and then you create a yoga charya. Our ministry, after this yoga day happened, wanted to codify and all that, and so they taught about 4 levels, right? What are the 4 levels? Yeah. So they had 4 levels. This is yoga teacher, yoga instructor, yoga teacher, yoga examiner, and yoga charya. This was their intent. Now the last 2 are not there on the ministry's website. So what happened? They're also going for the quick fix and saying, okay, let's train teachers, let's train preachers. But the essence and the value lies in a complete solution called yoga charya. That's what we need to do. Similarly with Vedanta. So you worldwide Deepak Chopras of the world have taken over. They just say, oh, everything is consciousness, it's all electricity, you and I are one, this kind of stuff. Right? And that's it. What next? That's it. This way, Swami Dayananda Saraswati has set up, he has trained more than 300. We need to train teachers. That's what the center was doing. Lastly, the platforms that we have set up are Indic Book Club, Indic Today, Indica Pictures, Indic Knowledge Systems, Indica Yoga, iGen Plus, and Indica Moksha or Advaita Academy. These are the platforms that we have today. Book Club initially started with sending out the curated list of people. That's how it started. Then we started promoting our own members' books. We have promoted more than 51 our own members' books we have promoted. Then we started promoting it in public by tweeting and saying anybody wants. Then again, this platform was made an online platform and made it into a Goodreads platform. This is what has happened. It was not, when we started out, we didn't think that we will do a good reads platform. It's happened today. In fact, Yogini is my constant critic, so she could say, oh, you change this, what happened and all that. Then Abhinav, then he wrote something and said, okay, well, let's do this. Then I thought about it and said, okay, let's make a platform for like a good reads platform. Now if you go to Indic book club, there's a structure. Every day we give out books. There's a community that we built. We have 2,000 subscribers. We can become 2 lakh subscribers. As conveners, you can go to every college and say, take this thing and say, please download Indic book club, sign up. Simple, right? And there's a community, online community that can be built. And then we have done Indic Today. And of course, we also have India Facts, which is, I was talking there. And then we have Indica Pictures. Gayatri is set up that. We have now more than 125 videos, 3-minute videos that we have seen. And that is one activity which we need to discuss. Then Indic knowledge systems. So here the vision is that there is no money, right? Like for example, Ashish has a database, and he has created, he started out his journey to create an online platform for courses. It's a no-brainer, right? Indic knowledge systems, we should offer online courses. Simple, and we should do it. But the problem is that people pay. The other problem is creating and building the brand. There are 2 issues. One is you can create the content. Second is the brand. And how do you do that when you don't have enough resources at our disposal for both? Which is why what we are trying to do is that there's a creation and there's a marketing element. Like Coursera, like EDS, we created a platform, we just launched it now, called Indic Knowledge System. So what I tell Ashish is, you keep creating content, I will advertise. So I will be the head, the hub for advertising. It will be like Udemy, it will be like a Coursera or an EDX. So that we can raise probably a grant, suppose we present this, maybe somebody will give 1,000 crores. Then the scholars and the digital platforms and the universities like MIT, they can concentrate on the creation. So that's the value that we are trying to do. In Indica Yoga, like I said, we want to do this completely. This is where Soumya has done successfully last year Indic TV Fest. Right? That's the biggest market. That's the biggest worry. That they will become a social justice warrior, or they'll become, because an irrational kind of thing. And that's the market that we need to have. How do we do that? This government has not shown any inclination to change the curriculum. The minister himself is proud of it that he has not changed. So that is also one. And we don't know. So do we wait for it and then someday in 20 years' time there will be a change? And then after that 20 years, there will be one more generation that will be going away. And all our children will be in some other world. Right? So what do we do outside the curriculum, outside the classroom? So what is IGN Plus is trying to do is trying to change the millennial, infuse some Indic element in the millennial outside the classroom and outside the curriculum. That's the thing. And how are we trying to do that? We're trying to do that. We have these products, so we're calling it Yogi Plus. Be cool and happy. So Yogi Plus. The Yogi Plus means you want to learn chanting, talk to me. You want to learn ethics or tales from mythological stories. Right? Yogi Plus is about that, the authentic, like how Swami Brahmananda did, how Vishal has doing, how to bring about that element of uniqueness. And then you have the design and exponential thinking, design thinking exponential. So we're trying to do conferences, cultural experiences, courses, and competitions. And the success of last year's Indic Team Fest, where we had 30 speakers, right? But in which 8 to 10 speakers were, and the topics were Indic. So that's how we have to infuse it. Can't be that, okay, put a gun on the head and say this is it, Indic and learn. It's not going to happen that way. It has to be infused. It has to be subtle. It has to be in a way that they understand and want it. And that's how IGEN Plus is. And we will talk with someone will talk us, and we have to ideate on how do we do it. For example, in Boston, I went to this place. So you know about Bar Vihar, right? Senior mission. But the problem I found was that a lot of parents do not want to send their children to a particular guru's. There also there is a certain amount of secularism that's there, that non-sampradaya is more acceptable. Because then, if I send you to a Ramakrishna Math, because there are certain sectarian months also, for example, Swaminarayan is there. So you don't know. So you just say, okay, let me send to a secular kind of a, not secular, a non-sampradaya kind of a thing. So in Boston, for example, weekend courses that are happening in a similar way, three students, three schools, all the NRI children come there. It's fantastic. It's a hugely successful program, self-sufficient. That's what we need to think of. That's what I want to discuss with Mali and Nandakumar also. How do we do? Like for example, I was on the board of a school till recently. So I asked the person, saying that, can we in this kind of, this is a posh English cutting school, this is a high-end school. So I asked him, can we, if we offer it as an option, on a Sunday, for 2 hours, the children come, and if I teach them chanting, and if I teach them stories from the Mahabharata and Purana. He said, yeah, there is option. And out of 3,000 children, he said, maybe 600-700 people will come, children will come. Because parents are also on a big, they don't have a way in which they can infuse that system. So if you put in these elements of sustainability, yoga, mindfulness, and these things, you can have. Just imagine if we are able to do a process-driven training program, how many school children we can impact. We don't need the MHRDs changing the syllabus. They can do what they want. But this 2 hours, if you are able to train, like how our teachers, the standard curriculum, if you are able to train and offer it as an option in all the schools, 1,000 schools, each with 3,000, just imagine 3 lakh children will get benefited because of this. And it's all self-sustaining and profitable. It's not some charity, because the parent will pay. This is something which you should think about very deeply, because with our network, what we can create is a huge impact in the children, who are our really primary customers. If you are able to design this course, train teachers, select teachers locally. Agra, you must select 10 teachers in this, in Gita chanting, Sloka chanting, in the stories, right? And in 10 schools, if you are able to offer that on an optional basis, right? There's no backlash or anything, optional. Just imagine the impact. And across, because we have a standard program, standard centralized training program, teachers come, train, go. It's something for you to think about. And of course, this is something which we started off very early. Now we have more than 6,000 videos in Sanskrit, Vyakarana, and all the things with more than 30 gurus and just get that kind. So this is the overall picture of the last 4 years in terms of the, of course, the activities and all that you already know, but just this gives you a perspective of where each one fits everything fits into a particular thing. And again, it's not like there's a jigsaw puzzle solution that's happening afterwards. I didn't even realize that there's a jigsaw puzzle in the first place. But now if you see, there's a beautiful pattern that has emerged with a structure, with a thought, with a focus and segmentation. Each person trying to look at something. Yogi is looking at Indic today, Kiran is looking at India facts, Soumya is looking at INN plus, Gayatri is looking at Indica pictures, Deepak is looking at Center for Indicators. And each of you have your own sadhana being manifested, right? Your own personality being manifested. That's the beauty thing. That's the beautiful thing. In terms of transforming individuals in our own ecosystem and having something to do which is aligning with your capability and passion in expressing yourself. And that is what we have achieved so far. So we will now progress into individual sessions. I have requested, so today we will have Prasanna talk about